Good afternoon. Welcome to the Happiness Contribution Show. I'm your host, Rosaria Cirillo, a little Italian ball of energy, enthusiasm, and passion, living in the Netherlands now for 19 years with my Dutch husband and my two boys. Having spent 20 years in customer experience role, I'm a certified customer experience professional, happiness trainer, and laughter yoga teacher. And in the Happiness Contribution Show, we share knowledge and practices about what contributes to our happiness and how we can contribute to others people's happiness as individuals and as business leaders. And we do that in three types of different episode formats: interviews with special experts like today, Marjolein, short insights and practices. And in today's episode, exactly, I have the pleasure of having Marjolein as guest. Marjolein is the Queen of Hearts and the founder of Be Your Own Best Friend Forever. She's also a senior facilitator for THNK, School of Creative Leadership and Design Thinkers Academy. She's a certified in emotional intelligence and applied positive psychology, and she's trained as a coach, and I can tell you an amazing one at that. So welcome, Marjolein. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for your great introduction. It's such a pleasure to be here today in the Happiness Contribution Show. This is so cool.
Yeah. And before I start sharing, I start asking questions, I like also to share a bit more about how I actually came to meet you and how the bond started.
Yes.
I always find fascinating to think back of that, and it's actually about 4 years ago now. It was February 2018 that I joined a training at the Design Thinkers Academy to become a facilitator myself, and Marjolein was leading the group and coaching us. And then there was this paper at the door where we could sign up to decide with who we wanted to have a follow-up call among the various trainers available. I had Marjolein, and when we had that call, I can tell you, I don't remember like the biggest quote from Maya Angelou. I don't remember what you said, but I remember how you made me feel. And for me, that call and the call that followed, it just felt that was for me. 2018 was a very difficult period. There was a lot going on, also writing
Yes.
my book, and a lot of challenges on the business side, changes. But every single call I remember having with Marjolein, I had this feeling of upliftment, and it was just like for me, yeah,
Oh,
amazing. So thank you for that, Marjolein. And then after
thank you
that,
for sharing.
the bond was created, and we started doing a
Yes.
number of things together because I was actually Marjolein joined one of my trainings, and then we ran together a customer experience masterclass for the Design Thinkers Academy. And then that was 2019, and then from then on, I actually witnessed your journey from
Oh,
moving from just, if I can say, just Design Thinkers Academy to this whole world of emotional intelligence and creating Be Your Own Best Friend Forever. So I've
yes.
witnessed that journey, and it's spectacular. So now, without any further ado, let's give the floor to Marjolein so that she can share with us and with you all as well that journey. So, Marjolein, my first question always is, who is Marjolein as human being? Who are you?
Oh, it's such a beautiful question. It's such a big one, but it's such a beautiful one because it's so open. I like indeed to say that I'm the Queen of Hearts. So this is like my favorite move, right? Is like to make a heart with my hands. Yes, yes. So I'm the Queen of Hearts because I'm super connected to my own heart. And that has been like a new step in my path, in my own journey of developing myself. But I think what people say about me is that I easily connect to their hearts. And indeed, what you said, Rosaria, and I really received the compliment that I made you feel like uplifted. So I think I'm all about that. I'm all about hearts. I'm all about connection. I'm all about relationship, and most specifically the relationship with yourself. And if I look at myself, who am I? I'm a chocoholic. I'm addicted to chocolate. Doesn't have anything to do with the podcast. Maybe it does because it's about happiness, right?
Actually, chocolate is a big. For a moment, I thought you said shopper calling. I'm like, I don't know you as that, but choco,
No.
yeah, I can
Yeah, yeah,
imagine.
yeah, definitely, definitely chocoholic. I was born and raised in France, in Paris. My parents are Dutch, so I'm kind of like bilingual, and I guess I'm trilingual with English as well. And I studied in the Netherlands, and I've been living in the Netherlands for, oh boy, many, many years now. I don't remember how many, but so yeah, so I'm kind of multicultural, I guess. I also lived in the States. I also lived in Singapore for a while.
I
So
didn't
yeah, I
know
think
about
I'm a
you. I didn't know that about you.
There you go. You learned that during my studies, right? So it was many years ago. I was a bit younger than I am today, but so I guess yeah, like I'm like a citizen of the world. I don't see myself as being French or Dutch. I'm just one of many. I love to see humanity, as in we're all humanity. We're all part of this bigger thing that is kind of hard to describe, but that's what I am. And yeah, so in that sense, I thrive by being connected to others, and mostly by empowering others to also connect to themselves, because that has been my biggest insight and learning over the past few years, is to really how to connect with yourself first. And I had to learn that because I could very much or very well connect with others. Oof, but connecting with yourself is another piece of cake.
Why do you think that is? Because I think many of us can recognize that sometimes it can be much more hard to connect with ourselves than with others.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think that connecting to yourselves means seeing all of you, all of yourself. And sometimes they can be parts of it that we find difficult. Sometimes they can be emotions that we actually don't want to connect with because we find them very hard to deal with or difficult. Sometimes connecting with ourselves might also mean acknowledging our strength. And that is something somehow our brain goes like, what? Acknowledging my strength? I will acknowledge my weaknesses, and I will let others, if they like, tell me if maybe I have a tiny little bit of strength, right? So it's I think that's what makes it difficult to connect with yourself, because you have to connect with your entire self and your entire being. And it's always much more easier to connect with others, to understand others, to have compassion for others, to be kind to others. But then when I tell my clients to put that kindness to themselves, they're like, whoa, that's weird. We're not used to that. We're not used to that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I'm thinking at the same time, kindness is a tricky one. Some people can be very much kind towards outside, but not inside. And sometimes you're also the other way around, though. So it's how do you see that one then? Have you ever reflected on that?
Yeah, do you mean people who are kinder to themselves than to others?
Yeah, because I feel like what I'm now brought to think is like we are evangelizing also more kindness in the world, more kindness in business, because sometimes we see there isn't enough, and then I'm like, but then how is that? It seems like
it's true, and I do believe that there's a difference between how do you say that, like when we're socializing with each other and when we are at work in a professional setting. And then what happens a lot is that the ego comes in, and the ego is all about me. I need to be important, I need to be seen as important, but most importantly, I need to be seen as strong and powerful. And a strong and powerful leader or manager or whoever it is not kind, because kind might be seen as soft.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting then how contradicting it is also with what you were saying before, that sometimes we are afraid of connecting with ourselves because we are afraid of seeing our strengths. But then actually in a work environment, we almost kind of have what Brené Brown, I guess, calls the armor, we armor up because we are scared.
That's true. And there's also, I think I will acknowledge that, different personalities.
Yeah.
So there are people who indeed, if you look at like the balance of loving yourself, loving others, and the balance of self and others, I think there's differences there. So some of us find it very difficult to love ourselves, and we love others very, very easily. And others think of themselves as being super good, super strong, and sometimes actually even become arrogant because of the ego that's coming in. And I see arrogance as also a lack of self-love, because usually when people are so full of themselves that they need to push other people down, it's because they're actually insecure.
Very true.
So they need to push others down in order to rise up. And that's also a lack of self-love. It also is. So
And yeah, and there is like, and that then that creates conflict. And then how do you get out of that conflict when you have this super kind person which actually gets eaten up by the one which is
yes,
hiding the insecurity? So
yeah.
do you actually have a tip there? How do you handle that conflict, Marjolein?
Well, it's a tough one because I feel that in that situation that you're depicting, both of the parties actually need to learn to acknowledge themselves in a healthy way.
I love
And
that. Acknowledge themselves in a healthy way. I think that that's
yes,
key. Yeah.
yeah, and in a healthy way that is because the person who's like super kind and giving all the time and having compassion for others, that person is probably making himself or herself small. So it's like serving others at the detriment of yourself.
Yeah.
And then the other person who might be super strong and powerful, big ego, going towards arrogance, pushing others down, is actually loving, not really loving, but is making themselves big at the detriment of others, making others small.
Yeah.
And both of them need to work on the relationship with themselves.
Yeah, because they're both suffering, and
They're
in a
both
way,
suffering. Yeah.
in a necessary way, because they could
Yeah.
come. So you mentioned also being your own best friend, and that's also the name of the movement, and training and everything else around it that you started. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely, and I'll start by telling the story how I came to this name and to this movement as such. As for you, the past years have been tough for me as well, and of course, many of the people listening right now because of COVID. And for me, it was completely COVID unrelated. On July 24th, 2020. I lost my very best friend. So I lost my own BFF, my own best friend forever. She passed away after having had breast cancer for many years. I was grateful to be able to be there to hold her hand while she took her last breath. And I felt like I took my last breath as well. I was just lost. Not having my BFF in my life anymore was so hard because I couldn't give anymore. I couldn't care for her anymore. I couldn't love her anymore. And I felt like a piece of myself had actually died when she passed because it was a piece of my identity. So after doing all the hard work, the reflection work, I had two different coaches I worked with. I went to see a therapist as well because I was really basically getting lost in depression. And I realized doing all that work that as a whole I was defining myself by what I was meaning to others. So my worth was defined by how valuable other people would see me. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that I really felt so lost, because I felt like I'm worthless. I really felt like I was worthless because I felt I could not be there for others anymore because I had so much grief and so much sadness inside of me. So I didn't want to burden others, because for me, calling someone up and say like, oh, I really feel bad, I really need you to hold me and I need to hear sweet words, and that was for me, that was a no-go in the past, because I felt I could only be accepted and loved and worthy if I could give something. And giving tears and sadness is like, no way. I mean, nobody wants to get somebody who's like depressed and feeling super bad. So I closed up. Yeah.
It's so recognizable. And at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
what I see is almost a parallel with what we were saying before about the people that are more up and hide from each other. I can see here the same thing, because I can recognize I also don't call up when I'm in those deep moments.
Yeah.
But then it's
Yeah.
like, and I remember in some conversation between us, actually, when you thank me for having allowed the space for you to be there for me, because that indeed
Exactly.
also helps you and vice versa. But it's like, instead,
Yeah.
we don't do it. For me, I'm like,
Yeah.
the only moment of really crushing or getting help from my friends is when they happen to call me while I'm really in a deep.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah. And that's a limiting belief that I think women maybe have even more than men, and that's why I'm working a lot with women, but not only. But it's like a limiting belief that we need to bring happiness and to be a good girl and to be smiley and that when we're not, we just don't interact with others. And yet, exactly what you said, when you find the bravery and the courage to reach out when you're in need and when you need help, you're offering a gift to someone else.
And you create connection, because then you show your humanity and you realize that you're both human, which in a way already uplifts you both. But somehow we just don't do that enough.
It's weird, right? So I really realized at some point that I needed to break free from defining my worth based on others, because I was super dependent on what others people would think of me. And not only, of course, Ronette, my best friend, but also at work, participants in my courses. I needed acknowledgement. I needed appreciation. I needed to hear I was doing well. Otherwise, I would just crumble in self-doubt. And that to me is the essence of being your own best friend, is that, of course, we all love it when somebody tells you like, great job, Rosaria, I love your podcast. You're doing an amazing job, right? That just feels good. It gives you a big smile. And yet, if we can come to a point that if we don't get that, we're still okay with ourselves, and we can still say, I'm worthy. I'm what I'm doing is great, and I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of where I come. Then the extra things you hear from others, it's like bonus. It's extra. It's like, oh yes, makes me feel good. And yet you already feel good with yourself.
Yeah, and I guess that as well is like, why is what gets in the way of doing that? Why can't we not just do that? Why is almost sometimes not enough that we say, oh yeah, this is good. Why does it have to come
for me,
from others?
Exactly. Why do we need others? For me, it's my inner, very critical professor, and basically, it's my inner critic. So my inner critic is like this very tall professor. She's got glasses on. She's got this finger. She's like super slim and like a super slim outfit. And she's telling me like, you're not good enough. You should do better. You're not smart enough. You should do this. You should do that. And that's biology.
That's true.
It's how our brain is wired. We're wired for survival, which means that we need to protect ourselves. So we'd better be hard on ourselves first so that we can avoid others doing that.
So it's kind of self-protection. It's continuous self-protection type of system.
It is. If I put myself down first, well, somebody else doesn't need to do it anymore. You know, when you're in a meeting or interacting or being with other people and somebody says like, okay, what I will say is going to be like completely stupid. I know it's stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's putting yourself down to say like, I'm an idiot. So then others don't even need to say it because you've already said it yourself.
Yeah, I think what the image that comes to mind is the image of the seed. That is like, you can stay in the seed and be protected in the shell of the seed, but then there is no growth, no sprouting, no blossoming. So
exactly, that is so well said, Rosaria. It's you will never flourish then. You will always stay small and also invisible because the seed is usually like under the ground.
Yeah.
So people don't see you, don't hear you, probably don't appreciate you for who you truly are.
Then it's really about how to find the right field, because sometimes I guess what creates a challenge is if you don't feel safe. And that's then part of the field. So it's how we can even create more psychological safety around us.
Yes.
Really hard.
Really, and I want to continue with this analogy because it's so beautiful. Because for a seed, indeed, it needs the right field in order to grow, and it needs the right nurturing, like it needs water and sunshine and vitamins. And so, what is that for us? Is that indeed the people we interact with? Is it the energy we get from being with others, or the work we do, or our super important values, to be able to recognize them? Yeah.
And that brings me then to also ask you, because for me, the analogy of the seed and the flower and the sunflower is also the analogy of happiness and how happiness-driven growth. So I'm curious, what is your definition of happiness?
Ah, such a big one. To me, the definition of happiness is finding happiness in yourself first. And once you've found that, then you're able to bring happiness to others. So being connected to yourself, being in balance with yourself, waking up and saying like, I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm unique, right? I'm unique. I'm the only me in this entire world, probably. There's billions of us, but there's only one Marjolein. And I feel that from that place, which doesn't mean you don't have doubts, because we always like, there's struggles, different things, but from that place of trusting yourself, of being your own best friend, I think that then your happiness will infect others, and you will be able to bring more happiness to others as well.
So, and for you, I guess here the key ingredients, it's really connection.
Yeah.
Anything else there? So that's, you say, what contributes the most to your happiness?
Good question. For me, it is connection, because I do really value human connections. And for example, I hate it when I speak with companies and they talk about employees, because I've never seen an employee in my entire life. I've seen human beings. I've never seen an employee. I've never seen a leader. I've seen
and it's
people.
the same versa with customers, right? It's like,
exactly. Customers is the same.
And like, we are born human beings, not consumers or customers or employees.
So that sense of humanity, to really acknowledge our being human, is so important. And I think in many ways, the way we live today, we kind of forget that we're actually human beings. So that really contributes to my happiness. Also, completely on a different note, going to the beach.
I was just thinking, I think nature is a big part, because if I think of the 9 factors of happiness that we have identified in the sunflower happiness, we have health, we have autonomy, purpose, play, integrity, nature, empathy, simplicity, and smile. And what I tend to ask always is, which of those factors contributes the most to your happiness? And I was a bit nature for you, but please tell me, which factors contributes the most to your happiness then?
Oh boy, yeah. So nature's so connection, human connection. Nature is a super important one, and I guess purpose as well. You mentioned that, right? Purpose is one of these. To really feel like I can add value to somebody else's life, and it's not easy every day, right? Some days you wake up and you're like, what am I even doing, right? Because it's so small. But yet, seeing the very small impact you have on just one person can be super beneficial for that person, and then can have other like that ripple effect. So I think a sense of purpose, definitely a sense of purpose.
Nature is kind of what I call the happiness contribution factor inwards. It's what recharges you as well.
Yes.
While purpose is your factor outwards, how you contribute to the world and how you connect as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, definitely.
And go ahead, you were going to say something?
No, I was going to say, and your smile, because indeed, as you introduce yourself, you're like this bundle of joy and energy and smile, and that makes every person happy, right? Just being and interacting with you is, but that's massive. That's the ripple effect that you're having just by being you. You don't even need to do anything. Just without
that easy.
It can be. And that is acknowledging your whole true self. There's only one Rosaria, and your smile, your energy, your vibe, that's unique. That's uniquely you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
We're coming close to the kind of closure questions, which are few. So the first one then is, which book changed your life?
It is The Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. We can share the link maybe in the show notes. And it was super hard because I read it while Ronette, my best friend, was still alive, and I knew she was going to pass. So it was, I cried the whole time. So if you want a happy book that brings you joy, maybe don't read that book. But if you're looking for true meaning, I mean, Bronnie Brer is a what's the name? Is a nurse who helps people at the end of their lives. And during her work, she's basically collected all the insights and all the things that the dying people were telling her about what they regretted about their lives. And what it changed for me is that I was like, wow, what is it that I can do in order to not only live happy, but also die happy?
Mm.
And that was a massive aha, because also on the topic of death, like for me, death was like, well, you don't think about it. It's like the end. We're not going to think. We just pretend we're never going to die, which we all know we are going to die at some point. So we better, or at least that's my thing. Like what can I do again to live happy and also to die happy? And I know I'm not going to die happy because you leave people behind it. So I mean, it's never going to be like you die happy, but you see what I mean, at least without regrets, And the first regret that comes up, like the most common regret that comes up, is people regret that they have not had the courage to live according to their true selves. So they've been living for expectations of others, to please others, but not live according to their own true selves. That's the number one regret that people have. Yeah.
And now for yourself, then, what are you doing to then die happy? Is it
Yeah,
daring to do what you want to do and be who you are, or what is it?
it is. So, for example, when you introduced me indeed as the Queen of Hearts, I mean, 3 years ago, I would never have said like publicly, like I'm the Queen of Hearts. That sounds so kind of weird. It sounds a bit like, bah, and then hearts. And even on LinkedIn, like the most professional connecting platform, I talk about hearts. All my posts have hearts. I'd make pictures of hearts everywhere because that's who I am. I love hearts. I love the heart. I love doing the heart sign. And because I want to connect to other people's hearts and my hearts. So now I'm just being my own authentic self. And whatever other people think of it, because a lot of people may go like, that woman is a bit weird, right? She's only talking about hearts all the time. What the hell? I don't really give much attention to that. And yeah, so for me, it's being my authentic self, allowing myself to be my authentic self. And how beautiful can it be if I can also inspire others to do the same?
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
And at the end, I'm art-centered leadership. So it's for me something that it's more and more like I'm very happy to see it growing even as a movement as well.
Yeah,
Because
does.
actually the heart is what keeps us alive, and it has
Yeah,
an entire intelligence of its own. It's an
absolutely.
entire movement also with the heart coherence, and it's also
Exactly.
doing a lot, and it's our intuition. Everything comes from the heart.
Everything comes from the heart.
But
Yeah.
somehow we have been refusing it for the past few years, and
Yeah.
we're just focusing on the brain. But that's
Exactly, on the
science
cognitive.
proves it's not like that. We first
And
choose
it's,
with the
yeah,
heart and then justify it with the head. So
exactly. And some people actually believe, or maybe they hope, that they can go to work and leave their emotions at home, And I'm like, it's a nice wish, but it doesn't work that way. You bring your whole self to work. There's no way you leave your emotions at home. What happens is that you suppress all of your emotions while you're at work, and you're like, I'm doing great, I'm doing good, and bam, 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 and then you go home and you're poof.
and not
And
only,
then,
but then also your health then pays the consequences. Because
yeah,
normally when you suppress your emotion, they go somewhere else in your body. So that's
yeah.
also that. So Marjolein, the human leader that most inspires you.
The human leader most inspires me. I have a post-it on my window, which I'm gonna take. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It is Oprah Winfrey.
Uh-huh.
And I have many of these post-its on my window to kind of as nudges to remind me. And this one says, "My inner badass Oprah."
Yeah.
So for me, Oprah Winfrey has been super, super courageous in her talk shows, of course, in talking about the topics that nobody else would talk about. and she goes super deep in her interviews. So I will never be Oprah. I don't want to be Oprah, but I want to be my inner version of Oprah. And there's also so that's why it says badass, because I want to be a badass Oprah. And actually, I'm going to reframe that. I am a badass Oprah.
Brilliant, brilliant. And that's also
Yes.
very nice practical tip and practice to be done. I love it.
Yeah.
And one more is filling the blanks for, to me, happiness contribution means. What is happiness contribution to you?
It's self-love. Can I say that? It's super short, but
Absolutely. It's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Self-love.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah.
And then your final golden nugget that you would like to share with the audience.
I think what I would want everyone who's listening in now is to be able to connect with their inner best friend. And the golden nugget is that we all have one. We all have one. We might feel like we don't because our inner critic is so loud, but we all have our inner best friend in us. We just need to connect with him or her or they, whatever it is. So that is super important to be aware of that and to find that connection. Who is your best friend inside, telling you how amazing you are? Who is giving you compliments? It's the force inside that gives you compassion and kindness, and that force is within you. You just need to connect with it.
What would you say is the first step that people can take to do that?
For me, the first step is really to raise your awareness of yourself. So who am I? Who am I really? Not who do I want others to see in me, but who am I? What are my strengths? What are my values? But also, what is my inner critic? Where is it coming from? So basically getting to know yourself.
Nice, thank you. Where can people reach or find you, Marjolein, if they want to continue the conversation or they have questions?
Oh, that is so good.
Reach you.
Yes, so I have a website, www.beyourownbff.com, which we will share, I think, in the notes as well. Yeah, I'm on Facebook, so you'll be able to find me there as well, Marjolein van der Kruk. And I also have a closed Facebook group that's called Be Your Own BFF. So if you want, you can join, and I provide a lot of tips and practices and many quotes and many things to help you work on the relationship you have with yourself, because it's the most important one in your life.
Yeah. And I can confirm I love that group, and I love all the nudges and snapshots that you give. So very, very valuable. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are at the end of our interview. Thank you so much, Marjolein. This was lovely. I feel we shared a lot of nice tips and from the heart. So that was fantastic. So I guess we are gonna close with your heart sign. Thank you so much for being with us today. And that's all for our guests. I always say happy and healthy and nurture happiness contribution. And you'll find all the details in the show notes. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you again, Marjolein. Bye.
Thank you for having me, Rosaria. It was super cool. Thanks.
Bye.